Hope you're having a wonderful day and week. We are having a little reprieve while Trump and Israel collude against Iran. Such a shame. I mean, these people are just murderers, and they want to dominate. They want to be in charge of Iran. But that's not why I'm here. You can tell by the picture. I'm here today to talk about P. Diddy case. Now, I didn't really follow the P. Diddy case because I found that it was very hard to listen to a lot of the coverage that was on the different podcasts. A lot of the coverage to me was not good, and so for me, I really didn't I found it difficult to listen to. So, and then people were throwing in their opinions, and people got really hung up on the sex, the different positions, and blah blah blah, and they really got distracted from what the case to me really is. So I decided to listen periodically, take out a lot of the extraneous stuff that was being said, and today I in passing thought about it and decided I would do a little video to sum up kind of what I'm thinking about this P. Diddy case. Now, P. Diddy, he represents artists, and that's what Cassie was. Cassie was a person who wanted to be a famous singer. She wanted to be like Beyonce, and then he, of course, had this other girl, what's her name, Jane, that's what she was calling herself. She was an older person who had been chasing artists and rich men, Hollywood types, for many years. So she was a potential, I think she was there more for the relationship. She wanted to get married and have a secure future because she was in her, late 30s. She was headed toward 40s, and I think she was seeing that she was, becoming the oldest girl at the party a lot of times, and she probably didn't like that, so she wanted to have a more steady life, and she thought P. Diddy could provide that for her, so that's how she got into it. And I didn't really follow the other two people that were witnesses for this case, so I'm not going to speak about them at all, and everything I'm going to say is going to relate to Cassie and Jane, because I think they pretty much tell the story of this case. To me, this is pretty much an easy case. I think it shows RICO. I think it shows a lot of the things they wanted to show. I don't know how they're going to present it in their summary, but I'm going to give my summary and tell you what I think about it. So, in my assessment, the first thing I look at is, who is P. Diddy? Well, he is a guy who, of course, he's himself as an artist, as a singer, and then he has a company which is under his name. And he and his company, two people, he's one and his company is another, get together and employ these people. Now, the people he employs are people with problems. His bodyguards are people who usually have done long sentences in prison, and so they can't get jobs. So he hires them at, not very fabulous salaries, and he gets them to do all kinds of things. He gets them to do the bidding that whatever he wants done. And then he also works with male prostitutes. He calls them entertainers, and of course they have a fixed salary, and he uses them as he needs. I don't think he has any long-term relationship with anyone, but I don't really know. As I said, I didn't follow the case that closely. And then he has these artists, like Cassie. She signed up with Diddy as an artist. He's supposed to develop her into an artist and a fabulous singer. And then he has this Jane where he has some kind of contract with her where he's paying her $10,000 a month plus a whole lot of other expenses through his company. And I'm not exactly sure how he classifies her on his employment thing, but Jane is also somebody he hired. And so he takes all these people who have pasts that make it very difficult for them to get jobs, or they can't get jobs, or they want a job with Diddy, like in Cassie's case, or his bodyguards. They pretty much can't get jobs because of, well, they're big men and they have some sort of history that would make it very hard for a regular company to hire them. So they have a weakness that he can take advantage of, because they need Diddy, and he doesn't really need them. He can always find another prisoner or somebody to take over the job, but they really need him as a body, to do the bodyguard work and so forth, drive the car, do errands and so forth. So I'm going to look at the RICO case, which I think the prosecution has really done very well. And I'm going to look at the tape, the tape we all saw of Cassie trying to get out of the hotel. She's covered up in a coat. She's by the elevator. The bodyguard, who's under the control of Diddy, and Diddy come out. Diddy starts beating her up. He gets the bodyguard to help guide Cassie back to the room, and that was all done at the direction of Diddy. The bodyguard really didn't care. He would have let her go. But that shows that she couldn't get away. There was no way to get out of there because the bodyguard was watching her. When she was trying to get out, he reported her to Diddy, or Diddy knew that she was out. But however he knew she was there, Diddy and the bodyguard prevented her from getting out of the hotel, and that's false imprisonment. And the fact that they grabbed her and made her go back into the room, that is kidnapping. She didn't want to go back to the room. They drug her back to the room. She had no other way of getting out of there. So they showed false imprisonment and they showed kidnapping just with that videotape of Cassie. Now, a lot of people get really hung up with all of the acts. She liked sex, they didn't like sex, blah, blah, blah. But all of that sex was done under the direction of Diddy. Now, I look at this as an employer-employee relationship. Now, what kind of employee were these people? Well, the bodyguards were employees. They were not independent contractors because they were at the direction of Diddy. They did their work under the direction of Diddy. They showed up when Diddy wanted them to show up. They did what Diddy wanted them to do. They did the work the way that Diddy wanted them to do the work. So they were totally under the direction of Diddy, and so they were employees. Cassie would have also been an employee, as she was signed up with his artist group thing, and so she would have been an employee, and he would have been same as a boss, any boss. And then Jane, she, I think, is she could have been an independent contractor, or she could have been a employee. But however, she did everything according to Diddy. Diddy had full control of Jane. He told her when to show up, where to go, what to do, what to dress, what acts were going to be done, how it was going to be done. He directed the golden showers, and he told her to to act in the golden showers. She didn't have any say about that, and whether she liked the golden shower or not really was not important to the case. It's the fact that he said that there was going to be a golden shower, and that was carried out because Diddy demanded it. Now Diddy's sitting in the corner, um, masturbating. I don't know if I can say that, so I won't say that. He is doing his thing, and of course she had no control of that. She probably wouldn't have wanted Diddy in the room, but she really had no control of Diddy being there, and so that was all of Diddy's control. So he's acting totally as her employer, her boss. The type of acts that that the girls performed in bed, the type of clothes they wore, the heels, the length, the height of the heels, the type of nightwear, getting nipples pierced, all that sort of stuff. That was all done at the direction of Diddy, the employer. So that really, you can't do that as an employer. Let me see. And he also said that she could not use any protection because he didn't like that. And so that was not her wish. She wanted to have protection. So again, as an employer, can't do that. So she had injuries. As an employer, you can't beat up your employees. I don't care who they are. And so they all had multiple injuries, sometimes from the acts they were doing in the rooms, and sometimes just from violence from Diddy. Well, you can't do that either. That is, in some countries, you certainly can beat up your employees, but not in the United States. Diddy made hotel arrangements. He would tell the girls where to go, what hotel they were going to be at, what things were going to be in the hotel, who was going to show up, what entertainers were going to be there. And that was all done by the direction of Diddy. They were told to bring the drugs. Now they have drug mules. Diddy was hiring people to bring drugs to these performances, and you can't do that. So Diddy had a special bag, I think it was Louis Vuitton, that he used to keep all of his drugs in, and they knew this was always there, and so they knew to pick up this bag and bring it to all of these situations. So that is also illegal. You can't hire people to carry drugs for you and think that you can escape the act. So Diddy was, as the boss, as the employer, getting people to do illegal stuff, and that falls on Diddy. And Diddy was also taping the things that were going in the room. He was sitting there, as I said, no one wanted him there, but he insisted to be there. He was taping. He was using his own equipment. He was saving the tapes for himself, for his own personal use, or for blackmail if in the future, if necessary. And the girls didn't want that to be done, but of course they had no say. So they definitely were not independent contractors. This was all their boss, Diddy, doing all of this stuff. As I said, he kept the tapes, and he even showed them to people. And one of the girls said that she heard that he had shown the tape to somebody, and she was trying, I think, to get it back. I don't know what was going on there, but of course, as an employer, you can't do that. The airline tickets, as I said, all arrangements were made by Diddy. Whether the girls went by themselves, they knew they were supposed to go by airplane to a certain place. So they didn't have to travel with Diddy to have all of this stuff be illegal. But Diddy made arrangements for when they were going to, take the airplane, and who was going to take the airplane, what hotel they were going to, what room, and so forth. When Diddy caught Cassie in the hallway, and she was in front of the elevator, and he beat her up and so forth, then he went down to the security for the hotel. He bribed the security. He gave them, I think, 2 or 3 guys a lot of money. I think it was 3 guys. And so he corrupted the hotel staff, gave them money to give him the tape. They would no longer have custody of the tape. The tape actually belonged to the person who owns the hotel, because he has insurance and he has liability for what goes on in the hotel. And I think Cassie even sued the hotel for Diddy bribing and taking the tape of the incident that happened in the hallway. So they had liability for what went on. They had liability because Diddy bribed the employees of the hotel. And so that is also illegal. You cannot go in and bribe people to do illegal stuff. Now those guys, again, were people in a low-level job that I think they were getting almost minimum wage. They were getting like $11 an hour, and Diddy gave them, thousands to get rid of the tape. So these are people with families, children, desperate for money, and so these were people were easily bribable by Diddy, and he was able to get his way based on his money. So can't do that, Diddy. That is illegal. See, I get a different picture for you here. So I think this all goes back to, let me see, anything else? Those are the main things, but I think it makes the point that Diddy and his company, he was hiding all of this stuff through his company. Now you have to also look at how is Diddy recording all of this on his accounts, because he has certain obligations to the government to report what he's doing. And so was he classifying Cassie as a employee or an independent contractor? Was he classifying Jane as an employee or an independent contractor? And so that would be important to look at. And how was he deducting all of these expenses? Was he deducting these expenses as business expenses, or was he doing it as gifts? So the $10,000 a month that he gives to Jane, is that a gift to her? Is it a loan so that he's just loaning her the money and she's expected to pay it back, in which case they would have some sort of agreement by that, or was she, if she's an employee, of course, you get a whole bunch of other duties that you owe your employees, and you cannot take people, because it's for them. If you're going to do crimes, it's most likely you're going to take the weakest people, the people who are most desperate, the people who need the money, the people who have the sick child, the people who are married and or have a lot of bills or can't get a job because of their past records or so forth. You're going to hire a bunch of people like that. You're going to hire people with drug habits or drug weaknesses. You're going to hire people with prostitution histories, all that kind of stuff, because those people are going to do what you say. They're not going to have options to leave you, and they're going to have to do whatever you say in order to keep the money flowing for their family. And by Diddy's actions, he shows that he is the employer, that these people he hires them for their weaknesses, and they are employees. And then he abuses them once he gets them under their control and so forth. Diddy then abuses them and gets them to do all kinds of illegal stuff. And I think it was Jane who said at one time that she felt like he was treating her as a worker, and she did not want to be that type of worker. And he said, well, we'll just won't work together anymore, you'll just be a friend. So here he was threatening her with her job. He was going to fire her because she would not do the type of activities that he had been demanding that she do in the past. And of course, she was more desperate. She wanted this marriage to Diddy. She was older, and she was aging out of the parties that he was giving. You know, he was always probably trying to get younger people to come into the parties, and having, let me see if I can get that back, and having Jane there, you know, she was looking more like a mom figure than the young workers that he was used to getting for these parties. He's used to getting the young girls, you know, 19, 20s, and so forth, who are aspiring to be in the music industry, or dancers. He has a lot of dancers, and I'm sure a lot of them, some of them look like they're trans and so forth, so they're going to have a lot of problems getting jobs, and they would be very easy to lead into a life of the types of things that Diddy was using. So I think that they have definitely shown that there was a union between Diddy and his business and some of the other employees or people who worked with Diddy. Some of them might be not employees or independent contractors. They might be just people, associates that he worked with. But it certainly shows there was a pattern or a company formed in order to commit a bunch of illegal acts, hide it as a legitimate business, do a lot of tax deductions and all kinds of things, and basically get the thumb on these people, and they can't get out. They need, and then, you know, when you leave the job, you know, what are you supposed to say? Well, Diddy's not going to give you a good recommendation if you leave and you refuse to do the kinds of things that he was requiring you to do while you were with him and his company. So I think this is a very easy case. I think the prosecution has shown that there was RICO involved. The two people that they really show is Diddy and his company joining together to do illegal acts. And of course there are other people. Now, a lot of people are going to be worried because a lot of people have structured their business in the same way Diddy has. So that we saw LeBron James coming in and speaking to jurors, trying to sway them to either vote guilty or not guilty. I don't know what LeBron James was saying, but a lot of people are going to have an interest in this because this is going to set up a precedent that they can use for other people in the business like Diddy, and they can go and backtrack. How were they using their business? What kind of activities were they using? And how were they getting their money? How is the money being generated? Who was carrying the money for them? How are they using offshore banks or banks in other countries or international banks and so forth? So all of this will be a very big as a precedent, and I think that the prosecution, the federal courts probably have a whole lineup of people that they're probably interested in investigating for similar RICO charges. Diddy, I predict, will easily be found guilty. I think easily he will get the full sentence because he had so many crimes. As far as the car being on fire, you know, basically no one actually saw anyone set fire to Cassie's boyfriend's car, but there is a strong link because of Diddy's jealousy that someone in Diddy's corporation probably either hired somebody to burn the car, or that one of Diddy's employees for Diddy burned the car. So they can even put that on to Diddy, in my opinion. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. And